Hello, everyone. Can anybody hear me? Hi, good evening. Those of you I don't know, and there are probably a few here, I'm Larry DeVan. I'm here representing the Museum and Hall of Fame, and I want to welcome you this evening to the Great American Weekend. And everything's been beautiful so far. Weather's cooperated, racing's been good. We have a terrific crowd here tonight, and it's my pleasure to introduce you to welcome you and introduce you to Roger Houston.
Good evening, and welcome to the night when we honor our sport's best and brightest. As we gather on this evening of celebration, let's remember what unites us all: the common love of the sport of harness racing. We're here to rejoice together in our own victories and those of our fellow horsemen and women. The losses are lighter, and the joys are magnified as we work together to make it easier on long days and nights of the lives that we lead. We remember those with us now and those that have gone before, who were at our side as we labored toward milestones celebrated tonight. Let us take away from this evening the strength of our collective joy to make easier the path of those we meet along the way, and to recognize the horses who give us our living, fulfill our dreams, and honor the trust we've taught for them to give us. Amen. Now, may we have, please, a moment of silence for those in our sport who have passed since we last gathered here, especially Jack Ball, Margareta Juanillas-Claiborne, Ted Wing, and Dave Brower. God bless the men and women who serve our country. We thank you very much.
Thank you, Roger. On behalf of the Hall of Fame trustees and staff, we would like to thank all in attendance for their support and commitment to this great institution and its importance to the industry. I hope everyone enjoyed tonight's food offerings, and now ask that you refrain from conversation and give tonight's honorees the respect they deserve. Tonight, we will start with the Harness Racing Museum has long enjoyed the support of the Monticello Goshen chapter of the United States Harness Riders Association, and this year is no exception. Representing the chapter is Sean Wiles and Chris Tully to present their very generous contribution to the museum, accepting our Larry DeVan and Museum Director Janet Terhune.
Thank you all that support the Monticello Goshen chapter of the United States Harness Riders Association. We appreciate your advertising and your continued presence at our banquets. Thank you. Thank you. Always a pleasure, Larry.
Yeah, you guys are the best.
Larry, don't go. Barry Lefkowitz, representing the United States Harness Racers Riders Association National Chapter, is here to present the generous check to the museum as well. Barry, please come forward.
Hello, everybody. It is my distinct pleasure and privilege on behalf of the United States Harness Riders Association, our officers, our directors, and membership to present the museum with this check for $5,000.
Thank you, Barry. So much appreciated.
Thank you.
Welcome to the Hall of Fame induction ceremony. It's a very exciting night to recognize so many deserving horses and horse people, especially some who have traveled far. I want to publicly express my immense gratitude to the entire staff of the museum for their efforts every day, but especially the days leading up to this celebration. It is never easy. I'm looking at you, Rebecca. But the end result is always impressive. I want to thank our sponsors, Lindy Farms for sponsoring the dinner tonight, Kentuckiana Farms, for sponsoring our beautiful awards, Preferred Equine Marketing for sponsoring the flowers, and VDLT, Alterity Wines for providing the wine this evening. I really hope that everybody enjoyed their visit here, especially the new toy exhibit and the Gene Smiths in the gallery. I think it's a remarkable exhibit of paintings. I hope if you didn't get to see it that you'll stop by tomorrow. And finally, I'm going to do the please renew your membership. If you are not a member, please join tonight. Take your time, look around the museum tomorrow. This is our history, your history, past and present, and it deserves your support. So thank you all for coming, and please enjoy the evening.
Every year, the Restoration Raffle raises money for the care and conservation treatment of art and artifacts within the museum's collection. Last year's raffle financed the new Gene Smith exhibit in the lobby. If you have not yet purchased your chance to win one of the great prizes donated to this event, please see Rebecca Howard inside Houghton Hall to get your last-minute tickets. Please stop by as you leave tonight to see if you are a winner. Casino Night. Also a reminder that the Hamiltonian charity Casino Night at Meadowlands Racetrack in East Rutherford, New Jersey, will be on Friday, August 4th, the night before the Hamiltonian. You can buy your tickets online at the Standardbred Retirement Foundation's website, adoptahorse.com. This popular event benefits the Harness Racing Museum and the Standardbred Retirement Foundation. Tickets include an open bar, dinner, dessert, music, and casino chips to play table games. For more information, please speak to John Mayo of the Harness Racing Museum. At this time, I'd like to call back Larry DeVan to bring out Harness Racing Museum's Horse of the Year Award.
At the museum's annual trustees meeting in 2010, then President Ebby Gary, well known to everyone in this audience, announced the creation of the Delvin and Mary Lib Miller Horse of the Year Perpetual Trophy. Beginning in 2011, this trophy was inscribed with the name of the Horse of the Year. It is then displayed during the year in the Horse of the Year exhibit. The fall of 2018, hello, nothing. Can't help that. There, better. A foal of 2018 Bulldog Hanover was bred by Hanover Shoe Farms, owned in 22 by Jack Darling Stables and Bradley Grant. Bulldog Hanover was trained by Jack Darling and Noel Daly and driven by Dexter Dunn. In 2022, 4-year-old Bulldog Hanover won 14 out of 16 starts, including the Breeders' Crown. The William Houghton Memorial in a world record 1:45-4, and the Canadian Pacing Derby. He was unanimously elected 2022 Dan Patch and O'Brien Horse of the Year, Dan Patch Pacer of the Year, and Dan Patch and O'Brien Older Pacing Horse of the Year. When he retired, Bulldog Hanover was the fastest standardbred in history, with 4 of the 9 fastest miles ever recorded, and a record of 6 wins in under 1:47. Accepting for Bulldog Hanover is Jack Darling. Jack, thank you. Yeah, pleased to meet you.
I've been in the horse racing business all of my adult life, and because it's been my business, I've always kept the emotion out of it, and I've been able to until now with Bulldog Hanover. Just something about this horse, not just his athletic ability on the track, but the way he carried himself, his dominance going across the finish line, the way he carried himself coming back to the winner's circle, the majesty of his ears perked like that, the way he handled himself in the winner's circle, it was just a really special thing for me. And so it really makes me feel good that the fans appreciated this horse as much as I did. And the fact that he's the first horse to be unanimously voted in as Horse of the Year, it just shows that it's a testament to him and what kind of an effect he had on people. So on behalf of Bulldog Hanover, I thank everybody for this award.
Oh, okay.
Looking for the trophy. There is one.
Oh, okay.
Got it.
All right, thank you.
Congratulations, Jack.
Thank you.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to call up Steve Olford to present the Harness Racing Museum Amateur Driver Award.
Oh, thank you. Wonderful to be back. I tell you, it's been a while with the COVID delay and all that sort of thing. I'm just absolutely thrilled to be here and to present this award tonight. Before I start, I just want to put in my usual plug for amateur driving. You know, those that are involved in the racetracks out there, we so appreciate the ability to come out as non-professional racers and race at these tremendous racetracks. Amateur driving has never been stronger. You know, we're racing at almost every racetrack in the country. We're raising money for charities. We're raising money for the museum. And it's just a great opportunity for those that normally maybe wouldn't be able to do that and come out and race with us. And as I've said before, anybody that has any questions, wants to come out and race, I strongly encourage you to do that, which is exactly what our 2023 winner, Charlie Longo, did. Charlie started out as a follower of harness racing. He went to the races as a kid. He grew up in New York City and came out, fell in love with the sport, and through, I think, a lot of coaxing and other things, showed up in my world in 2012 at the USTA Drivers Clinic at Mark Ford's farm. And he came in, he had never sat behind a horse before, and it's like, okay, here are the lines. We had double-seated jog carts that thankfully for the USTA provided, and he exhibited his love for harness racing. So he showed up, drove the horses, showed that he wanted to be able to come out and race, and exhibited an incredible desire to actually want to do that. From there, which a lot of the students that we did in the USTA driving school, with the help of Joe Feraldo, we lined him up with Dennis Laturza, where he cleaned stalls, jogged horses, and learned the ins and outs of the harness racing industry. And along the way, he used to call me, say, man, I'm not sure I'm cut out for this. And he and I came up with a couple words that coached him through the entire thing. Keep going. And I tell him, keep going. You'll be fine. Keep track of your jog miles. My mantra with the students at the USTA driving school, jog 1,000 miles, train a horse 100 miles, get 100 training miles, and then go behind the car. And if you can handle it and you're not afraid, you're ready to go. And Charlie did that. And so it was a bit of a visual for him, and we got him through it, and he did it. He went through the qualifiers, he raced at the fairs. I think he had a couple horses run off the track. He made breaks. I mean, he went through the entire process, which was absolutely wonderful. And he made it out the other end. So now he's racing with us. He got his pari-mutuel license and made it through and qualified as the Museum Amateur Driver of the Year. And along the way, he did a few other things, which a lot of the students of the USTA driving school did. And that is, he started a partial ownership organization in which you could participate as a minority partner in horses called Winner's Circle Racing. And then he started a second one called Diamond Racing. Diamond Racing. So together they're just under 50 horses combined. He's brought owners into the sport. He's out there racing with us. He raced yesterday with us here at Goshen. We had a great time. The 2023 Amateur Driver of the Year for the Harness Racing Hall of Fame and Museum, Charlie Longo.
Thank you, Steve. Ladies and gentlemen and fellow honorees, let me begin by congratulating all the honorees on your induction to the Hall of Fame. It is with great joy that I received this award today, and I'm extremely grateful to the Harness Racing Museum for this honor. This award represents a dream come true and is the culmination of countless hours of hard work, dedication, and long road trips, all fueled by a deep passion for harness racing. Although I've only been involved in the sport for about a decade, my journey likely began around 1974 when I accompanied my dad Carlo on the special trotters bus that took us to Roosevelt Raceway. That 12-year-old kid thought harness racing was one of the coolest sports he'd ever witnessed and hoped to one day be just like those jockeys driving those chariots. Over the years, my enthusiasm for the sport continued. The desire to become a driver never faded, and I regretted not pursuing my dream sooner. Finally, in 2012, I decided to give it a go and attended the USTA's driving school, a memorable 50th birthday gift from my wife Karen, who's here tonight. The highlight of the program was jogging a horse with Steve Olford and his cash cab. Steve always encouraged me early on to keep going, and I did. It was also there where I met Joe Feraldo, who referred me to the Laturzas at Yonkers Raceway. They welcomed me with open arms, and my formal education began. Fast forward to 2022. I obtained my provisional license, and my next goal was to start racing with the amateur clubs. Over the past year, I've enjoyed trips to numerous tracks in the US and Canada. One of the most thrilling moments thus far has been the Billings Series in Canada, where I picked up 3 wins in 2 seconds in 5 starts. Other highlights included driving competitions against the British and the Italians, and driving in front of large crowds at Delaware, Ohio during Jug Week. My harness racing journey has come to fruition very late in my life, and there are so many people in the harness racing community that I've had the pleasure of meeting along the way. Many thanks to those who taught, encouraged, and supported me, including my trainer, Kim Gilman, who's here tonight. Kim and I attended the driving school together, and she was instrumental in giving me my first drives at the county fairs and setting me on a new path. Special shout out to her awesome caretaker, who's here tonight, Mr. Buddy Noble. My trainers, Rob and Patty Harmon. I really value the relationship we have as partners, and I sincerely appreciate your giving me the opportunity early on and trusting me to drive some of your horses. And then the amateur drivers, Mr. Tony Veruso, Joe Lee, David Yarrick, Joe Feraldo, and Matt Zuccarello. Thanks for your support, guys, and for welcoming me into your clubs, and the privilege of serving on the board of directors for the Standardbred Association of New York. My Diamond Racing Stable Fractional Ownership Group, and there's so many of you guys, but I can only name a few, and I'm only going to use your first names, but you know who you are. Nina, Joe, Bob, who's with me here tonight, Matt, Gary, Vin, Keith, John, and Scott. My family and friends who always cheer me on through the highs and lows. Thank you to my wife, Karen, for being a constant source of support and putting up with a lot of rambling about harness racing over the years. Again, thank you to the Harness Racing Museum and Hall of Fame for the honor. You've made my harness racing odyssey incredibly rewarding, and I'm looking forward to continuing the journey. Thank you, everyone.
Pretty sweet.
For more than 20 years, Jim Brooks has worked to build an unparalleled collection of harness racing toys, children's books, Americana for the Harness Racing Museum. He has coordinated the funding for the brand new exhibit that showcases toy memorabilia to entertain, educate museum visitors of all ages. Jim has remained a steadfast member since 1987. And we're all lucky to have him as part of the harness racing community. It's with great pleasure that the Harness Racing Museum and Hall of Fame now honors Jim Brooks with our prestigious Pinnacle Award for his outstanding and longtime dedication to the museum. Jim, nice to meet you. I've heard so much about you. I'm glad to have you here.
Glad to be here.
Congratulations.
Thank you. 5 minutes to go over 23 years.
Close to the mic.
5 minutes to go over 23 years in the making, but it's been a pleasure all the way. I'm delighted to be here amongst all of you, and humbled by the award that I'm receiving this evening. A few little things that I jotted down to try to be interesting and be who I am. I've convinced myself that a well-known sentence that we've all heard from time to time, thoroughbred racing, the sport of kings. I believe I added this second part of it, and then God created harness racing for the rest of us. We're all lucky to be here. We went through the pandemic. The world was ravaged. But the trustees, the director of this museum, Janet, and the hardworking people John Mayo, Missy Gillespie, and that wonderful dear lady, Rebecca Penny Howard. She got the nickname Penny because when I first started collecting, I had everything sent to my home. Well, eventually I realized one thing. That's great, but I'm paying double shipping for everything I bought in a year. And if you buy 50 or 60 toys a year, it adds up. So we did a code thing. I was Sky King, and for all you folks that are old enough to remember Sky King, and he had a niece called Penny. And so I became Sky King, and when the packages came here, they were addressed to Penny Howard, so that she knew that it came from me. Anyway, that's that part of it. I'm also going to have some words with Janet about, we're going to change the name from the Jim Brooks Americana Collection, featuring the Colloidus Brooks Children Books and Games. And that, I want to make it clear, none of this is about me. The collection hopefully will bring in a different demographic. It'll bring parents, bringing kids. The Lego people their children may come here. Because if you haven't seen that exhibit that these people work tirelessly at, you're missing something. So be sure to visit the children's collection, and it's going to get even bigger. And why it's going to get bigger is because my racing partner of 20 years, my dear friend Athen V. Colloidus, his wife Tula's here, and son John, are donating. They donated $20,000 seed money for the collection previously. And I guess if we put that money in the bank, John, by now, it took 23 years to go, there'd be a lot more in the bank for that. But the family will donate $30,000. The exhibit will be renamed the Brooks Colloidus Americana Collection. So I'd like to take and acknowledge that for the Colloidus family. And in closing, I got a minute and a half left. It's so good to be among harness people. We're the easiest people in the world. Another coined phrase, I may not know John Campbell, but I know someone that does. And that bodes true for all of us. So, simply put, as a kid from Oakville, Connecticut, I finally got here, and I'm very fortunate to be honored. And I thank you all so much from the bottom of my heart. And my son, Jim Brooks. I love you, boy. That's it.
Yep. Great speech. Beautiful speech.
And a smile. Yeah, right. Boom, boom. All right. Okay. Thank you.
Really good stuff.
Thank you.
Let's go.
Thank you so much.
Oh, okay. Just tie it up.
Now for the Living Horse Hall of Fame. Back in 2007 at Harrisburg, hip number 87 was a horse called Swan for All. 112 hip numbers later, a horse by the name of Muscle Hill sold. Muscle Hill raced 21 times, 20 times a winner. Swan for All was 9 for 11. You probably would have had a tough time betting that Swan for All would wind up with a horse of the year, but not Muscle Hill. And that's what happened with our first Living Horse Hall of Fame member, Hannelore Hanover. Bred by Hanover Shoe Farm, winner 46 of 87 starts, lifetime, 6 years of racing, hit the board 71 times, earned over $3 million. Her racing career, she was owned by the Burke Stable, Weaver Buscemi, Frank Baldacchino, and the J&T Stables. 2 of those 26 Jerry Silva Breeders' Crown winners came with her. It was driven primarily by Hall of Famer Yannick Gingras. A 2-time Breeders' Crown winner, 2-time Older Trotting Mare of the Year, and 2017 Horse of the Year, Hannelore Hanover trotted the fastest mile ever by a mare in history at the time, winning in 49-2 at the Red Mile. She's currently owned where she was bred, Hanover Shoe Farms. Accepting for Hannelore Hanover is the #1 earning driver or trainer in harness racing history. Welcome, Ron Burke.
Okay, thank you very much. We brought Foiled when he won his award, but Hannelore travels as two now, so we can't afford that, so I will speak for her. For the first part, Hannelore, I want to thank Dr. J, that is who bred her and, got her on her way. Then, as a 2 and 3 year old, she was managed by Ricky and Jamie McCumber of our barn, who helped her probably achieve things that we wouldn't if me and Yannick would have been in charge at 2 and 3. Finally, at 3 and 4 and 5, thank God that me and Yannick had probably grown up enough to handle a horse of her caliber, and she did everything we asked of her. She was an incredible horse. We have to thank the owners, being Frank Baldacchino for being obsessed with Indiana so that we bought her, Mark Weaver for who always is down for anything we got, and my parents who are the best people in the world and do the best for all of us and all our kids. Also, we'd like to thank Jerry and Teresa Silva for joining in, so making sure that no trophy would ever be unclaimed. And after that, her career ends with that Hanover, back where she belongs, and she was great to us. We think the world of her, and thank you very much.
Good job, Ronnie Burke.
Man, he's tall. We're going to segue a little bit and go on to the Living Horse Hall of Fame broodmares. We have 2 inductees tonight. Our first one is quite a unique story. My Little Dragon. What makes My Little Dragon so unique is that she met the criteria to be inducted into the Hall of Fame as a race mare as well as a broodmare. Tonight we recognize her as a broodmare. Bred by White Birch Farm of Allentown, New Jersey, 3-time Breeders' Crown winner and world champion pacing mare, My Little Dragon was a foal of 2003. I'm going to speak briefly about her racing because she did have such a great career as a race mare as well. At 2, she was undefeated season, ending with a win in the Breeders' Crown and being named 2-year-old Pacing Filly of the Year. As a 3-year-old, she again won the Breeders' Crown on her way to earning just shy of $900,000. At 4, she won in 1:48 and 1, the fastest mile by a pacing mare at the time. And at 5, she again won the Breeders' Crown and was named Age Pacing Mare of the Year. Now, as a broodmare, the offspring of that qualified My Little Dragon for the Hall of Fame are 2017 O'Brien 2-year-old Pacing Colt of the Year, Stay Hungry, winner of the 2017 Breeders' Crown and 2018 Messenger and Cane Pace, and 2022 Dan Parrott 3-year-old Pacing Filly of the Year, Treacherous Dragon, winner of the 2022 Breeders' Crown, Fan Hanover, and Jughead. My Little Dragon is currently owned by Steve Stewart, Conquest Acres, and Dave Schmucker Jr. Accepting for My Little Dragon is David Reed.
Good evening, everyone. First off, I want to congratulate all of tonight's honorees, and also to echo prior statements, that big shout out to Janet Trehune and the entire staff here. You guys do a tremendous job. As Mark previously mentioned, My Little Dragon was bred and raised by White Birch Farm in the Parisi family, and Preferred Equine was very fortunate to represent her first 8 offspring at public auction under the White Birch banner, and including the great Stay Hungry and Treacherous Dragon, who are, obviously great horses. At the farm dispersal in 2019, she was smartly acquired by the current owner, Steve and Cindy Stewart's Hunterdon Farm. On my last visit to Kentucky just a month ago, Steve asked me that I could accept this award on their behalf, and wanted me to recognize the original breeder and everyone that was responsible for her upbringing and the racing career, and know that she's in good hands at Hunterton Farm. So on behalf of Steve and Cindy Stewart, Hunterton's Farm, just want to say thank you.
Our second broodmare that is going into the Hall of Fame is Road Bet. Road Bet is a foal of 2010, bred by Winback Farm. Road Bet's first 2 of 3 foals qualify her for the Hall of Fame. 2021 Dan Patch 2-year-old pacing filly of the year, Nikki Hill, winner of the 2021 Breeders' Crown, and world champion Cattle Wash, winner of the 2020 Matron Stakes and the 2021 William Houghton Memorial and Graduate Series. Her 2020 foal, her third foal, is Earth, Wind, Fire, a recent winner of the Park MGM Philly Pace final at Yonkers Raceway just this past Friday. She currently is a winner of over $400,000. Road Bet is currently owned by Dr. Steve Dye. Accepting for Road Bet is Dr. Steve Dye.
Well, I just want to thank the Hall of Fame, and certainly it's a real privilege to be up here accepting an award for Road Bet. I want to thank my farm crew for the great job they do with helping us raise the mares and foals. My brother and I are oftentimes working on racehorses, and my crew does a great job looking after those mares and foals for us. And I also would like to thank my wife, because I never really get the opportunity to do that. Thank you.
We will make another segue, and right now we will look and recognize our Hall of Immortal inductees. Our first inductee is Charlie Coleman. Charlie Coleman was one of the best known caretakers ever to use a rub rag, born in 1921 in Chester, South Carolina. During his career, Coleman took care of many brilliant performers and was known to everyone simply as Big Charlie. He was widely respected for his patient handling of horses. Coleman went to work for Hall of Fame immortal John F. Simpson Sr. when the two were teenagers, and he would be associated with the Simpson stable for his entire career, a career that spanned over 40 years. After serving in World War II, Coleman returned to South Carolina and soon went back to work for Simpson. Charlie Coleman was caretaker of 2 Hamiltonian winners, Triple Crown winner Ayers in 1964 and Timothy T. in 1970. 2 Little Brown Jug winners, Noble Adios in 1956 and Bullet Hanover in 1960, and 5 Kentucky Futurity winners, Ford Hanover in 1951, Ayers in 1964, Timothy T. in 1970, Waymaker in 1974, and Sugar Cane Hanover in 1986. Sugar Cane Hanover also won the 1986 and 1987 Breeders' Crowns, and 1988 March of Dimes Trot while in Coleman's cure. The March of Dimes Trot in 1988 may be one of the greatest trotting races ever this sport ever had. Coleman was honored by the Harness Tracks of America with the Red Smith Award for Outstanding Caretakers when the honor was initiated in 1987. Charlie Coleman passed away in 2003 at the age of 81 in Orlando, Florida. Accepting for the Coleman family and for Charlie Coleman is Dale Welk of the Standardbred Wholesale Company.
Thank you, and I'm very happy to accept this honoring Charlie. I had the privilege of working with Charlie at the Standardbred sale in the 70s as a teenager. John Simpson Sr., they owned what they called Hanover Horse Agency and always had a mixed sale consignment at Harrisburg. And John brought all the grooms from the stable to Harrisburg to work those, and I was very lucky to be able to work along with him too. I was grooming for Hanover at the time. Charlie was a super man. He was a horseman beyond belief, like Mark said. I've met quite a few, a lot of them in this room too, but he was exceptional, and I know he'd be very honored by what you've done for him. Thank you.
Our second immortal tonight is Dr. Gordon Gilbertson. Must be Petrelli outside. With his extensive experience with both treating horses and as a veterinarian and training and driving harness horses, Dr. Gilbertson would revolutionize the standardbred racing industry when he invented the quick hitch. His idea changed the sport, and it has become so commonplace. Gilbertson was born in Hagersville, Ontario in 1920. He graduated Doctor of Veterinary Medicine from the University of Guelph in 1944. In 1965, Gilbertson became the first track veterinarian at the then brand new Windsor Raceway. In addition to his private practice, he worked for the Ontario Racing Commission for many years and was closely allied with the Ontario Agricultural College. Throughout history, attaching a horse to a sulky involved using a thimble placed over the shaft ends and then wrapping straps around the straight portion of the shaft. Gilbertson felt there had to be a better and safer method to hook horses to the sulky or cart. He set about to bring his idea from theory to reality, fashioning a prototype from machined parts. In 1980, Gilbertson secured Canadian and United States patents on his new quick hitch, which would eventually be called the Rondo Quick Hitch. Top horsemen in Canada and the United States soon became converts to the new invention, and it continues to be the standard used at racetracks and training centers around the world. Dr. Gilbertson died in Stratford, Ontario in 2016 at the age of 95. He was inducted posthumously into the Canadian Harness Racing Hall of Fame the following year. Accepting for Dr. Gilbertson tonight is Hall of Famer John Campbell.
Thank you, Mark. My first recollection of Doc Gilbertson's goes back to 1959-60 when he raced a free-for-all mare called Ambitious around the county fairs. And I was 4 or 5 years old, but she left an impression on me. Doc also did work for my family as a veterinarian, and he came up with this invention that just solidified. Unfortunately, I go back to the days of long tugs, safety straps, and thimbles, as Mark alluded to. And he came up with this invention that we all take for granted today. However, poor Doc, he never got the recognition for his invention, or the credit for his invention, or the financial reward that he should have got. But everybody that hooks a horse up today should think of Doc Gilbertson. Thank you.
Our third immortal tonight is Ira Mallett. Ira Mallett was born in 1898 in Mount Orab, Ohio. And in the 1940s, he owned and raced harness horses in Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, and Ohio. At the racetrack, Mallett saw the need for a more precise race timing method which would eliminate the discrepancies found when using stopwatches. In 1949, the Visumatic Timer Company was established in Louisville, Kentucky, with Mallett as president of the firm. The original model of the Visumatic timer was an oval design similar in shape to a racetrack. A full-time crew of 8 was required to build the unit. The timer was tested at Fairground Speedway in Louisville, Kentucky, where Mallett and his engineers ironed out problems, and improved the invention's design. In November of 1951, the United States Charting Association gave its approval of the Visumatic timer, and the following year, Mallett secured the contract with Roosevelt Raceway. Photoelectronic beams were installed across the track at the quarter poles. The beams were able to focus on the leading horse, ignoring the starting gate. When a field of horses behind the gate passed it, the light beam was broken, setting in motion the visual timer. And for the first time, harness racing fans could see visual displays showing the times of a race. The Roosevelt Initiative would prove that manual timing with a stopwatch could vary, and Mallett's Visumatic timer created a more precise method of timing races. Ira Mallett died in Louisville, Kentucky in 1975. Accepting for Ira Mallett is his nephew, Tom Brady.
Yeah, a lot of you recognize that name. Some football guy made it famous. I've had it a long, long time. But about my uncle, really, Ira Mallett, we're so honored that this award has been presented to him. A couple of years, 2 or 3 years ago, my brother and I felt that there was a need for him to be honored in the racing for his achievement of automatically timing the very first harness race. And this is the result of it. And we were very surprised at that because we had no idea this was even available at the time. So we thank you very much to Janet, the board, everybody for helping us get this far and doing it. So thank you very, very much, all of you.
Our final immortal tonight is Margot Taylor. Margot Taylor was born in 1934 and was on the back of her first saddlebred at the age of 3. Her first venture into harness racing was as a writer and publicist for the Indiana County Fairs in 1953. Taylor first joined the Harness Horse Youth Foundation Board as a trustee in 1978. She shared her love of harness racing with future generations. She created programs and expanded the reach of camps. She fundraised. She wrote manuals and curricula. She inspired committee workers. She traveled coast to coast to spread the foundation's mission, both within harness racing circles and with other equine youth organizations. Taylor served as president of the Harness Horse Youth Foundation from 1990 until her death in 1994. Taylor received many honors, including the United States Harness Riders Association's Proximity Award, both for herself in 1994 and for Harness Horse Youth Foundation in 1996. Accepting for Margot Taylor is her daughter, Ellen Taylor.
On behalf of my mother's family, I sincerely thank those who spearheaded this honor, including Tom Charters, Callie Davies Gooch, and the selection committee. I humbly accept on her behalf. Those who knew Margot recognized her power of persuasion for those matters closest to her heart. Those who did not, you missed an excellent example of individualism and living life with adherence to one's principles. Because of my lack of objectivity, I reached out to a couple of Margot's former HHYF students, now adults. Even today, her impact is evident. Here are a couple of brief glimpses into her essence. From Mike Mattingly. I attended one of the first Indiana camps when I was a kid, some 40 plus years ago. After meeting Margot, I instantly connected in sharing her fire for racing. Having not been born into the sport, she took me under her wing, gave me an avenue to learn more, and welcomed me and many others into the harness racing family. Margot not only taught me about the many aspects of harness racing, she instilled in me that hard work, integrity, and passion are essential components for both the sport and in life, and for that, I'm eternally grateful. Mike Williams shared. Margot taught me a lot about how to care and teach horses. As I got older, I realized these lessons weren't just about horses. They were a mirror the way we should treat other people. Kindness and patience are keys to success, but sometimes a firm hand is necessary if you don't want to get stepped on. I close with an appropriate Margot-inspired challenge still ringing in my ears nearly 30 years after her death. Whatever your passion, give it life. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next two honorees actually are two immortal broodmares. Our first honoree is Adios Scarlet, bred by Max Hemp. Adios Scarlet, a foal of 1959, was the dam of 6 individual $100,000 winners, including 3 winners of $400,000 in the 1970s. Adios Scarlet's richest offspring include 1972 Older Payson Horse of the Year, Isle of Wight, 1971 Little Brown Jug winner, Nansamon, upset winner over Albatross in that race, and 1978 Woodrow Wilson winner, Scarlet Skipper. In addition to the previously named, Adios Scarlet was also the dam of free-for-all pacer Richmond, top pacing man Nancy Isle, and 2-year-old stakes winner Southampton V. Accepting for Adios Scarlet is Bob Bonney.
Thank you. She's a great mare that seems time sort of forgot, and it was very rewarding. Up like this? Adios Scarlet's a great broodmare from a different era, and it seemed that time sort of forgot her, and it's very rewarding to see her finally get into the Hall of Fame. Very, very rewarding. Thank you.
That's good, Bob.
Our second immortal broodmare is Exciting Speed. Exciting Speed was bred by Ellie Lake of Colfax, Indiana, a foal of 1965. Exciting Speed had 16 foals with 13 taken records. Her top performers included 1981 Dan Patch Trotter of the Year Panty Raid, winner of that year's World Trotting Derby, defeating the Colts, and career earnings of over $470,000. Bonefish, winner of over $300,000, named Trotting Colt of the Year at both 2 and 3, the winner of the 50th edition of the Hamiltonian. Bonefish was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2006. And Imagery, a winner of over $200,000 with a win in the 1978 Buckette, one of her many accomplishments. Accepting for Exciting Speed is Seth Rosenfeld.
Thanks, Mark. It's really an honor to be up here accepting on behalf of Stony Creek Studs, such a legendary farm that's been amazing for so many decades and is still such an important part of harness racing today. Thank you on behalf of everyone. Thank you very much.
At this time, I'd like to call Chris Tully up to the podium, and we will start tonight's 2 live auction items, 2 very impressive items that I hope raise a lot of money for the Hall of Fame.
Did we lose Chris?
Mr. Tully, you're at the mic. Yeah, that's it. I got it.
Good evening, everybody. Caught me by surprise on that one. If you recall, last year we auctioned off a few key items, one of which was the general manager suite at Yankee Stadium for a game. We're going to do that again as well. It's a great suite that is good for any game this year. It's Brian Cash. No, it has to be agreed upon on any date this year, agreed by with the office. Okay, and we also have a round of golf at the Great Horse Golf Course in Hampden, Massachusetts. Am I saying that right? Hampden, right? And this is a beautiful facility. If you go to their website, greathorse.com, you can see a video. It's a whole montage with drone footage. It's a beautiful facility. We would expect nothing short from the Antonaccis. They built it. It's fabulous. Guy is here himself, and it is a 7,600 yards of pristine golf action. So we are going to start the bidding at this foursome for Great Horse Golf Course at $2,000. Now, who's going to give me $2,000? $2,000. Do I have a bid here? Do I have any bid spotters to help? There we go. We got a bid in the back. Make it $2,500. We got $2,500. We got $2,000 over here. Looking for $2,500. $2,500. Do I have $2,500 to bid on this great golf outing? $2,500. Do I have another bid here? Can't see who that is in the back. Is that Mr. Kimmelman? Yes. Okay. Here we go. Looking around here. Need a little help from my bid spotters. Okay, I have $2,000, looking for $2,500 on the golf outing at Great Horse in Massachusetts. Looking for $2,500. How about, okay, Larry, $2,500, $27,500, $27,500. Here we go. Looking for $27,500 on the Great Horse golf outing. $27,500, $27,500. Here we go. Thank you very much. Okay, good. We got $27,500 here. Larry, are you in at $3,000? $3,000. There we go. We got a bid. 32, 32, 34. Do we have 34, Larry? Larry's out. We got 32 back here with Mr. Kimmelman. Anybody else? Looking for 3,400 on the golf outing at greathorse.com, generously donated by Guy Antonacci and the rest of the Antonacci family. 32 over here, looking for 34. Going once. Okay, here we go. Is that Mr. Biddle? Got 34. Back to you, 36. Okay, we got two live bidders here. 36. Got 38. Yes, is that it? Yes, there we go. 38. Looking for you for 4,000. Very good. Thank you. Goes to a good cause. The golf outing at Great Horse. 42 to you, Mr. Biddle. 42. 42. 45. 45. Yeah, there we go. 47.50. Going once. Is that a bidder? That's a good way to get in the horse business. Okay. You must have got a waiver. Mr. Biddle, 47.5 to you. Yes, sir. 5,000. Mr. Kimmelman. Okay. 52. 52 to Mr. Biddle. Any bids over here? I don't want to leave this side of the room out. I don't see any waivers. Okay, very good. 52 to... Going once. Going twice. Mr. Kimmelman, 5,000. Thank you very much.
Hey, if you don't like them, the bidders. Tell Dan when he wants to have one, you can have one.
Okay, yes, we don't want any unhappy underbidders. So if you want one for 5, we'll sell you one too. Okay, there we go. We sold 2. Very good. Thank you, Frank. There we go. Everybody's happy. Hey, Dave, how come we can't do that at a horse auction? Very good. Thank you very much. The Antonacci family. Give them a round of applause, please. Okay, so we've satisfied the golf fans in the crowd. Now, if baseball is more your thing, then our second item will be a home run. We have 6 tickets in the general manager's suite at Yankee Stadium. These seats are not available to the public, and tickets are redeemable only to tonight's successful bidder. Fully catered with indoor and outdoor seating and parking for 1 vehicle. Tickets are for the mutually agreed upon date during the 2023 regular season only, subject to availability, cannot be rolled over to 2024. Okay, so here we go. We're going to start the bidding at, I know I have some notes here. Right, okay, very good. So, Yankee Stadium tickets, general manager suite. How about we start at $4,000? Last year it sold for what, $6,500, is that correct? $6,000. So, we do have a couple of phone bidders, I believe, who are interested in it as well. Do I have $4,000 out there for opening bid? $4,000 for the general manager suite. Frank Antonacci, $4,000. All right, how about a $4,500? We got $4,500 out there. We're looking for $4,500. Who's my next bidder? Okay, here we go. Jason Settlemeyer, $45,000, $47.50, $47.50 on Frank, $5,000 on Jason. There we go. $52.50. Okay, $5,500. There we go. $6,000, $6,500. Jason, I can't see. Is that a nod or a shake or no? Okay, there we go. We're at $6,000, correct? Do we have $6,500? Anybody else? $62.50. $62.50 back here. Who's the bidder? Ms. Fanning. Oh, back behind you. Okay. So we got, you're out, Frank. The bid is now $6,500. Yes, $6,500. Do I have $67.50 over here? Yes, $7,000, $7,000, $75, $75. Do I have $75 back here? Is that Frank? $8,000. Here we go. $8,500. $10,000 American dollars. Whoa. Starting out strong, ending out strong. Here we go. That would be $11,000 to you, sir. 11, 12, okay. Do we have 12,000? 12,000, 13 to you. Oh, we got 13. We got 12 here. How about 13 in the back? $15,000. Okay, here we go. This man is out. That man is in. Okay, going once, going twice. $15,000. Thank you very much. Thank you all for your support of the Harness Racing Museum and Hall of Fame.
It's time now for us to look at the Living Horse Hall of Fame. You know, it's not easy to be born the same year as Always Be Mickey and make almost $5 million in your career, but the following horse did it. McWicked. Bred by Andre Farms of Pennsylvania, McWicked, a son of a cardinal, made $2.4 million. Recorded 40 wins, finished on the board 82 of 110 starts, 7 years of racing. During his most successful racing season, McWicked was owned by Ed James and SSG Stables, trained by Casey Coleman, and driven primarily by Brian Sears and Dave Miller. A lifetime winner of just over $4.9 million, with a record of 46-2, Brian Sears' fastest ever winning drive, set as a 7-year-old. McWicked became the oldest horse to top North America's single-season money-winning list with earnings over $1.5 million. He's winner of 2 Breeders' Crowns. In 2018, voted the Dan Patch and O'Brien Horse of the Year. Accepting for McWicked is a 3-time jug-winning trainer and the youngest member of the top 25 earning trainers in history, Casey Coleman.
Thank you very much. Thank you to all the voters on the committee to put him into the Hall of Fame. That's fantastic, and thank you very much. It's my first time coming to Goshen. Never been in the Hall of Fame here, and it's pretty cool. It's very, very cool in there, so that was a neat treat. And I wish that James could have been here today. This is obviously his award, SSG Stables. He just turned 92 just a few days ago. He would have loved to be here. He was at the Canadian Hall of Fame for the horse last year, and he loved it, but he's actually not doing the best right now, and he just simply couldn't make it. But he, being 92, I don't even know what age he got in the business, but he's had horses since forever, and to have a horse like McWicked, he put a lot of money and time into this game to get a horse like him. I got the chance to train him. He was nice enough to let me have a chance to train the horse. And I got to thank all my staff with McWicked, his grooms through the year. Jeffrey Kemp had him the majority of the time. Tyler, I can never pronounce his last name, but he had him for a long time. My assistant trainers with him, Andrew Harris, Anthony Beaton, Mark McKinnon. Obviously the drivers, Brian Sears and David Miller, did the majority of the driving on McWicked, so I definitely got to thank them. And everybody. And I want to thank, too, I saw one of his blacksmiths here today. Somewhere you're here, Tim, but Tim Cable helped keep him going. Jeff Boyd was one of his blacksmiths. Wayne Krause, Jared Kelly, sorry, and anybody that knew any of the press on McWicked. I never had that many horses with bad foot problems, thank God, but he had a bad quarter crack his entire life, and I fought it non-stop. And there was many times, one of my biggest wins with him was the Canadian Payson Derby. If we would have had eliminations, McWicked was not racing. He literally could not walk the week of the eliminations. He was so lame. We got him fixed up in time. They went straight to the final, and he ended up winning the Canadian Payson Derby, which was one of my big bucket list races to win. And that horse had so much heart. I had to race him with one bar shoe on that night. I've never done that. And I remember Dave Miller looking down when we were walking out of the paddock, and he was kind of looking at me like, "What are you doing, kid?" And I said, "Don't worry about it. He'll be fine." But we had no choice. He had to race with one bar shoe on that night, and he got the job done and won. So anyways, thank you for putting him in. Thank you for all the staff. I hope I didn't leave anybody out that's been behind McWicked's career, but he was just a fantastic horse. Every time I went behind the gate with him, I knew we had a very good chance to win, and a lot of times he did come out with the win. So thank you.
I'll not only introduce our next Living Horse Hall of Fame, but I'll also accept for, this would be Yankee Glide, nominated as a stallion. Yankee Glide was a foal of 1994. That was the very year that the first of 3 Hambletonian winners by his sire, Valley Victory, happened with Victory Dream. After a Peter Horton winning $500,000 career, Yankee Glide became one of Valley Victory's most prolific siring sons. Only he and Muscles Yankee surpassed 100 million, and his average per starter over 93,000. There's only one horse in the last 40 years who has finished 1-2 in the Horse of the Year balloting. That's Yankee Glide in 2006, when Glide Master and Passionate Glide turned the trick. They also won the Hambletonian and Hambletonian Oaks that very year. Now remember, he goes in as a stallion. Kentuckiana brought in November of 2001, and if you look at some of the horses that Yankee Glide had, some of the other names are 2-time Breeders' Crown winning Mystical Sunshine, Breeders' Crown winning, and 2 years, should say Hambletonian favorite Man and Many Missions, and Hambletonian runner-up Guccio. But maybe his biggest impact came with his daughters. That's right, daughters have produced 300 $100,000 winners, including the last horse ever to make $2 million in a year on the trot market share, $2.7 million earning Shake It Ferry, and a variety of others. No trotter, not named Yankee Glide, has ever sired a richer single-season Triple Crown winner than he did with Glide Master at $1.9 million. And the delicious irony of tonight is not lost on me. On the very night that Ken Workington is going into the Hall of Fame, so is his sire, Yankee Glide. Thank you.
At this time, I would like to ask David Reed to come to the podium to speak about our first Living Hall of Fame inductee, Frank Antonacci.
So I've been extremely fortunate to know Frank the Elder and the Antonacci family since the late 1980s. During any long period of time, it would not be uncommon to see a change in any individual, entity, or organization. However, two things have remained constant with Frank the Elder over the past 35 years: his horses and his family. Even though we are inducting an individual this evening, it'll reach far and wide amongst his family, and a black type family that it is, built like a pyramid from the top down or the bottom up. He joins his father, the late Sonny Antonacci, and his cousin, the late Frank J. Antonacci, both inducted into this hall in 2000, along with the great moneymaker. Speaking of black type performers, Sonny Antonacci was a hell of a sire in both Frank the Elder and Jerry. But Sonny couldn't have done it alone. He had one strong and beautiful dam, his wife Mary Ann. Sonny also appears to be a sire of sires. Frank, along with his wife Rebecca, and Jerry with his wife Fran, have each sired 3 beautiful children. They're all here tonight, along with the next generation of the Antonacci family with the grandchildren in attendance. One could argue that Jerry should be sharing the stage tonight, as he's been long by the Elder's side throughout his journey. The Antonacci's family's commitment and contribution to this industry are without question. They have provided and shared resources, knowledge, opportunities that have allowed many individuals to become better people, not only in the horse business, but in the Connecticut community where they reside and beyond. And they even named the golf course, as you heard before, Great Horse. At this historical institution, with this individual inductee, you can see he possesses the same high quality attributes as the horses in this hall: class, pedigree, performance, and longevity. And he has human characteristics such as passionate, tough, hardworking, charitable, a visionary, mostly calm, but being a fierce competitor. It is well known that Frank the Elder has been deeply entrenched into harness racing for a long time. He served as a director of the USTA, member of the Hamiltonian Society. He's trustee here at the Harness Racing Museum and Hall of Fame. He's an investor in the New Meadowlands Racetrack and a part owner of the historic Red Mile, all with his family. Never shy to think outside the box or express his views, his contributions have not been limited by borders or jurisdictions, as he actively breeds, buys, sells, trades, races horses around the globe, but creating a footprint that's broad and massive, but all the while promoting the sport of harness racing. His knowledge of pedigrees is deep, and it's evident by the successful breeding program at Lindy Farms, producing world champions and developing sires that have been impactful to the breed here and abroad via frozen semen. He has impacted the standardbred industry on so many levels, many times behind the scenes, over a long period of time, as many of you know in this room. Always an advocate to change for the better, think forwardly with new and progressive ideas. He's grounded, he remembers his roots and where he came from, and he's not afraid to remind others that as well at times, including myself. He is a sincere and caring individual that at the end of the day, he believes in the greater good of all, and he leads by example. He loves the sport of harness racing, and he's often said that the horse business has taken him to places he would never see, and he's met people that he would never have met without it. Horses like Moneymaker and the thoroughbred No Nay Never have proved it time and again. I consider myself extremely fortunate to be involved with Frank and the entire Antonacci family, not only on a professional partnership level, but as a friend. To all us that know him well enough to call him a friend, we're lucky. And for all those who don't, I'm sorry about your luck. I can assure you that his late parents, Sonny and Mary Ann, his wife Rebecca, his children Frank M., Chris, Philip, the entire Antonacci family, the staff at Lindy Farms, and the over 1,500 employees at USA Waste and Recycling are extremely proud of the person you are and what you have achieved. It is my privilege to introduce to you Frank, the elder Antonacci.
David, thank you. Is this on? Yeah? Okay. Well, David, thank you for that great introduction. I mean, I don't know who that guy is, just like my statue inside. I don't know who that is. Sorry about that, guys. But like David says. But anyway, I want to thank, is this on? Is it on now? So, I'm not going to give much of a speech here tonight because I don't think I can get through it. Okay, so lucky for you guys. But anyway, Goshen's a great place. I want to thank the Garys, the Harrimans, everybody else who puts this great place together. The state of New York, whatever help they give us, and all that kind of stuff. The museum is great. I love the people at the museum. Thank you, Janet, and thank you to Harness Riders for doing this all. Like I said, I'm not going to be long here, but I do have a speech. If you look in your program, there's a QR code, because I don't think I could get through my speech tonight. Okay, so I'll save you guys the time of doing that. But I would like to thank a few special people. My wife, Becky, who put up with me for many, many, many years. Going to the Meadowlands at night, not getting home till the middle of the night, and raising my 3 boys when I wasn't there. I'd like to thank my 3 boys for the support and their interest in harness racing. I'd like to thank my brother Jerry, his wife Franny, and their 3 kids for helping us all out. And there's so many more people I'd like to thank, but I wouldn't get through the speech. So please go look at the QR code. It's about 12 minutes. It's right in the program. What page is that?
53.
53. When you got 12 minutes in the bathroom, please listen to it. Thank you.
Okay, our second inductee into the Living Hall of Fame. At this time, I would ask for Bill O'Donnell to please come up to the podium to introduce Per Erickson.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome. I met Per, I think he was about 12 years old. He still looks about 13, but anyway, at the Meadowlands. And he was the most serious, humble young guy that you'd ever want to meet, and worried about his horses. And remember he was training for Hans, and he had a horse in a Hamiltonian, and he scratched the horse for whatever reason. He said no, he wasn't right, so he just scratched him. So remember Hans said, that kid's either a real good trainer or he's an idiot. He said, so I'm not sure which, but I think it was the next year pair that you had practice and he won the Hamiltonian. But with Hamiltonian, that week with practice, and he'd never done anything wrong in his life, I don't think, but he was, that afternoon, Hans came in and he said, is Per in there? I said, yeah, he's in the back. So I went back and he was sleeping. So I said, how could that man sleep, you know, with $1.3 million on the line? He's got the favor of the race. And so I woke him up and he said, I've been up all week. It's up to you now. So anyway, a great horseman, a great individual, great family man, and there's no better. So Per, welcome to the Hamilton, or to the Hall of Fame.
Okay, thank you everybody. My QR code is on page 52. Thank you. I have to say it's a pleasure for me to be here with my family. It's a big honor I'm honored to have to be elected into the Hall of Fame, and be here with our family means a lot. This venture started for me in 1981. I was 20 years old when I first arrived in the States, and I was very fortunate for me to work for Søren and John Dean. I still think they are one of the greatest trainers ever. And to be around them and just train beside Søren and just see how he did it was everything for me. This is 4 people that really was important for Sweden stable. First of all, I had a partner. His name was Ingvar Gran, and he was starting the stable. I was young, and we got the chance to open this together. And I felt that I cannot do it alone. I was too young and I was too scared. And Ingvar said, no, we do it together. We're going to be fine. Unfortunately, he got very sick, and he kept himself alive. He had a long time sickness, and he passed away the day after practice in Hamilton. And it's the first important one. The second important one was Mr. Carl Dugan. He's a very good friend to us, and he helped me to run the business, knew how to run the business, and when the money was empty on my account, he put in his money so I can pay the bills, and he was like my second dad. And without him, I don't think we ever can make it. And then was 2 other owners, and there was Hans Engren. He provided us with nice horses, and another fellow was Jackie Hall from Kentucky that provided us with very nice horses, so we can get a good start. I have been very fortunate to be able to train a lot of nice horses, and the one that really put us on the map, like Mr. O'Donnell said here, was Prakas. He was something special, and I have in the story when we went to the trotting derby, he had his own line, this horse, and he didn't want to go to the gate sometime. He stopped on the track, and you know how hot it can be out in the coin, and fortunately, I'm very lucky. My wife is a very good conditioner. She was running every day. So Billy and Tina was working on that horse. I was probably in the restroom. And we had one shot to get him be able to start the race. And if he don't behave after that, he'd be scratched and had to leave. And Tina was running, and O'Donnell was screaming, and she was sweating. And finally, she gave him a lucky kick, and he took off, and he put a new world record after that, and it was the fastest horse ever, fastest trotter ever. So that started our business and the way we started Sweden stable. The second greatest horse I had was Giant Victory, and he was very nice. We had Jackie Moise. I think it was the first time he ever drew him, and
I told him that he's not that fast out of the gate. I think he had 8 or 10 hole. He left out of the gate like no, never. It was he was the fastest horse ever, and he was just the strongest that day. And he had a little odd gait, but he took his finish line like it was nobody can catch him. And the third great horse we had a lot of great horses, but that was King Conch and Alf Palema. They were coupled up as a trainer couple, and King Conch was the favorite. Alf Palema, he was a real long shot. You know, he was just in the race because my owner, Mr. Bender, wanted me in the race. So Mickey McNichol was driving Alf Palema, and we had Sonny Patterson driving King Conch. And when they get to the last turn, Alf Palema was sitting last, and King Conch was in the lead. And right at the wire, I was standing up at the driving room. When you woke up, there was a little cabinet file they had in the room on the left, and I was standing in that room and looked at the TV, and I saw a horse beat King Conch on the wire, and I got so mad, so I was kicking that file cabinet, so there was pieces, and just a minute later I find out it was Alf Palema. I had no idea. So that's my 3 nicest horses. We had a lot of other nicest horses. We had Look at Victory, Credit Winner, Giant Victory, Giant Force, Giant Hit, so a lot of them, but that was the 3 really top 3 for the, and especially when you win the Hambletonian 3 times. Let's see here what we can do now. We had a lot of many owners over the years, and I want to mention a few. We had Jackie and Ted Givorch, and we had Steve Robbins, and they had all the giant horses. We had Giant Hit, Giant Force, Giant Chill, a lot of nice horses. We went to the sales and picked them out together. We had a lot of fun, right, Ted? And they were not really high-priced horses, but we really did our homework. I remember Steve Robbins, he had a lot of papers on his breeding on his computer, and we went around and looked at these horses, and we bought a lot of nice horses. So we had a lot of fun, and I really appreciate that. We had other good owners. We had Mr. Levine, we had that own Look at Victory, Credit Winner, Dream of Joy, and we had Karl-Erik Bender and Margareta Wallenius and Marvin Katz, Sam and Al Liebfeld, and we had a lot of more good owners, to mention some. And we had a lot of good crews down the road. When you have a big stable, everything, the name of the game is you have to have a good crew, and we always had good people around there, Tina and I. And what I had to say, to mention some, is we had Thomas Anderson, Per Augustsson, Joe King, Jonas Cernesson, and they were second trainers, and some were grooms, and then I had the one that did a very nice job for us to keep our checkbook in order. It was Mr. Lynn King sitting there. Without her, we probably never made it either, honestly. These 20 years in America has made me and to I am today. America is where my family was made, when our children was born, Dennis, Vanessa, Niklas, and Maria. And forever, Tina and I forever going to be very thankful for American harness racing. And this is a great honor for me to be Hall of Fame. Thank you very much, everybody.
At this time, I'd like to ask Bob Bonney to please come up to the podium to speak about our third Hall of Famer, Lucian Fontaine.
That was quick enough. Okay. I'll try and make this brief. Growing up in the metropolitan area, I spent a lot of my youth at Roosevelt and Yonkers. I got to watch Lucian firsthand, his great talents, his great competitive nature. Later in life, we became friends. Talking to his son Mark, who unfortunately could not be here today, we both know, he said it to me, and I'll repeat it from my many conversations with Lucian over the years, how important this would have been to him. And fortunately, he did get word of this before he passed away. So he was very much aware that he is a Hall of Fame inductee. He was a great horseman, and in addition to being a great horseman and always a gentleman, he was also a very strong advocate for horsemen and had a lot to do with the trainers and drivers, especially the drivers back in the Roosevelt Yonkers era, getting their 5%, which was not always deducted. So Lucian was very active. He was a gentleman. I think this would be an extremely proud moment for him. His record, everybody knows what he's accomplished, but I think he was truly a gentleman and would have really enjoyed being here. Unfortunately, couldn't be here. But I think the Hall of Fame is adding a real champion and a real star. And on his behalf and on behalf of his family, I just want to say it's an honor to be here, and I'd like to thank everyone for making this possible for him. Take any pictures or what? With no rain.
Moving on to our communicators, I would like Gordon Stone. Try that again. I would like Gordon Waterstone to come up to the podium to introduce our first communicator, Bob Roberts.
First, I'd like to congratulate all the honorees here tonight. It was great to see Pear again, Frankie from the Red Mile, and my longtime friend Ken Workden, and everybody else honored tonight. Thanks, Janet, for another great night. I'm up here to introduce Bob Roberts, Bob Railbert Roberts. No disrespect to anybody else, but if I had the power to design a racing rider, it'd be Bob Roberts. He's wit, he's clever, and you know, industry people, we read our own stories. You know, remember the Horseman and Fair world? You know, we'd read our own stories. But Bob's stories went out into the mainstream. And I believe harness racing should be indebted to somebody like that. And that's why it's a great honor to have him up here tonight. His cleverness showed early in his life. When he was in high school, he had a math project. And he was able to convince the teacher that a study of the Hialeah jockey standings fit the criteria for that math project. So we know that. I met Bob, it's hard to believe, 40 years ago, Bob, at Hazel Park. I was lucky in my previous career as PR director at Hazel Park that I had racing writers, Al Kaufman at Detroit News and Gene Guidi at their Free Press. And Gene and Bob were great friends. Bob came to Hazel Park one night, and since then Bob and I have become great friends. Gene passed away last year, but he knew that Bob had gotten in. And that's the only thing I regret, Bob, this year is that Gene, he would have been here when we do it, and I miss him. So it's a great honor once again to have Bob introduced now into the Hall of Fame, and I'd like to welcome him.
I don't know anybody could pack that many lies into a short introduction. But a deal is a deal. Check your phone. I put $50 in your betting account. I think you still have time to bet the 7th at Ocean Downs, but hurry up. I want to thank a handful of people. Obviously the Harness Writers Association for giving me this honor. Believe me, it came out of the blue. It really humbled the hell out of me. I also want to thank Debbie Little, because she held my hands through all this process. A lot of phone calls, do this, don't do that, please do this, what do you want here? And also the staff here at the hall. It's just, what a marvelous place this is. It really is. The exhibits are incredible, just incredible. And the old racetrack behind here, really, really special. And I also want to thank the harness industry, the people in the game, because I've covered Major League Baseball, World Cup soccer, the Daytona 500, NFL, the most cooperative and appreciative people in my career. And I've written in, hard to believe I'm 75, I've written in 7 decades because I started in the late 60s and I've written into the 20s. So the most cooperative and appreciative people that I've come across, harness, just the best. So give yourself an applause. Since I was a kid, I wanted to be a sports writer. My dad took me to a Cleveland Indians game, and we're in the upper deck, and I saw these guys sitting behind home plate. I go, what are those guys sitting at a desk? What do they do? He goes, those are sports writers. They're paid to be here. I go, that's it for me. I'm in. So, and I gravitated toward horse racing because there wasn't that much travel involved. Baseball writers are on the road 200 nights a year. I don't need that. So horse racing kept me close to home. And I grew up in a suburb of Cleveland called Willowick. And there was a guy on my street who was launching his career, and he was very successful. He says, kid, you want to cut my grass a couple times a week? I said, sure. I was like 13 years old. And then he came to me about a month or two later, says, I have a harness horse racing in Chicago. Him and his wife had no children. He says, would you like to come with my wife and I overnight? We'll go to the track, watch the horse race. I said, sure. So it was at Sportsman's Park. Sat at a table in the clubhouse, watched the horse pace. Came in second or third. He says, we're going to go back to the barn, give the horse a peppermint, and then we're going to go have a sandwich with the trainer driver. You talk about coming full circle. That trainer driver is right down the hall from where my plaque is in there. It was Joe O'Brien. And maybe some of you know the guy whose lawn I cut, because he went from being a horse owner and an amateur driver to a racing official, and I think he spent several years at the Meadowlands. Anybody know Don Latessa? That's whose lawn I cut. And he just passed away a couple years ago. He was 92 years old. So, in closing, I just wanted to thank everybody. It was a great night. I wanted my wife to be here, but she lost her battle with cancer 5 years ago. But she gave me the greatest 4 gifts, and I want them to stand up. My daughters, Nicole, Jennifer, Gina, and Maria. Stand up, girls. Right over there. Once again, thank you very much. Whoop, 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 whoop. What do we got?
I got a ring for you.
Oh.
There you go.
Thank you.
Look at that big wow, beautiful.
Let's get a picture with the good throw.
Really?
Yeah,
Up here?
hey, wait, let me mark it up.
Oh, that's nice.
I was going to go to that.
Wow, thank you.
Put that in the middle here.
Yeah, Dad.
All right.
Dad is
All right.
Ooh, nice breed.
Yeah.
Close.
Close in.
Oh, that's it.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you.
Our next communicator, Dave Little, please come to the podium to introduce Ken Walkington.
Great job, Bob.
I first met Ken Wargington when he and I worked together at the Meadowlands over 30 years ago. We spent every Wednesday evening together for 5 years, doing the show from 1995 to 99. And that's how our long friendship began. Now we work together again as part of the Racing from the Meadowlands team. You learn a lot about a guy working for him for that long. For example, he's a New Jersey Devils fan. Although I do remember him telling me years ago that he liked the Toronto Maple Leafs. But since they haven't won a cup in over 50 years, I can let that one slide. You know, Ken loves to play golf, and he's very good at it. At least I think he is. He's actually never told me his handicap. He's also one to enjoy a cold beverage after work. And his favorite beer is... Actually, I have no idea. Maybe whatever is closest and coldest. Perhaps you don't learn a lot from working with a guy for that long. Or maybe I just did most of the talking. But seriously, Ken is a true and loyal friend, and one of the hardest working people I know. He has great loves in his life, his family, wife Jennifer, mother-in-law Kathy, daughter Abby, and son Andrew. And then, to a somewhat lesser extent, harness racing and hockey. In addition to being a top-notch race caller, he plays and refs hockey. I'm telling you, this guy's insane. After working Saturday night at the Meadowlands until nearly midnight, he'd get up at 6 a.m. the next morning to go ref 3 or 5 or 7 hockey games. I don't know how many. When you call a guy a scurvy dog, it's really not a compliment. But Ken wears it like a badge of honor. The Scurvy Dogs is the adult hockey league team that he plays for. People may have forgotten what a good, make that great broadcaster Ken is. Since after our good friend Sam McKee passed, Ken became the voice of the Meadowlands from the announcer's booth, not a broadcast set. But as it turns out, race calling was his calling. And he's one of the very best in the business. I mean, if he wasn't, why would we be here? He's the top guy at the top track in the world, but he still works every day to be better. He's a true perfectionist, and he's a student of the game. And each and every one of you in this room who listens to him knows that it shows. Ken has had many famous race calls, but the one he gave after Bulldog Hanover's world record still gives me chills. 1:45 and 4, there it is, the fastest mile in harness racing history. It doesn't get any better than that. Wow! Well, Ken, for you, it doesn't get any better than this. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the Communicators Hall of Fame, Ken Workington.
When I was 8, no, I'm just kidding. Good evening. This is indeed a great honor, and it ties a bow on a very fulfilling career that it's gone by way too fast. And to be symbolically reunited with Sam McKee and next year Dave Brower, it's surreal to be associated with so many distinguished honorees, people with a passion for the sport, a love of horses and racing itself. Congratulations to my fellow inductees in this class of 2023. I must thank the members of the United States Harness Writers Association and the chapters, the various chapters who nominated me, including my fellow Canadians. I'm not responsible for the wildfires, by the way. I have nothing to do, I think it was Jack Darling. The president of USHWA, Barry Lefkowitz, for a phone call I'll never forget, and Dave and Debbie Little for all their great work. I've been very fortunate to do what I enjoy for a living, to utilize and develop my skills in a fun and a very exciting sport with gallant horses, gifted and dedicated athletes, and to work with so many talented people who enjoy racing. I'm proud to have been able to work as a Canadian, an American citizen, and a New Jersey resident. It's been a privilege to represent the sport at the highest level on major television networks and to lend my voice to the greatest racetrack in the history of the sport. 32 years at the Meadowlands, still going strong, 23 Hambletonians, over 250,000 race calls, including Jack Darling, the fastest of all time. Allow me to acknowledge just some special people who inspired me, had an influence on me. The late Jim Lampman, who introduced me to announcing legends Earl Lennox and Jack Stevens. The late Charlie Juravinsky, who gave me my first real job at Flamborough Downs, after their announcer and my mentor, Wayne Reed, had opened the door for me. Eventually, I would start to follow the Meadowlands via videotape and satellite dish. Remember those? I discovered the right way to work on my craft, studied the master Tom Durkin. Jerry Connors, who led me to my first job as a publicity director at Northfield Park. Alan Gutterman, who took a chance and hired me at the Meadowlands. And all the tremendous talent at the Big M over the years. Bob Hollywood Hayden, Dave Johnson, John Bothy, Brad Thomas, Sam McKee, Dave Brower, Dave Little, Mike Farrell, Mike Sheehan, Larry Colmus, Bruce Beck, Gabe Pruitt, the great Big M TV crew, rising stars Jessica Otten, Andrew Shades Dembski, Edison Hatter. Can't leave out my agents, Rachel Ryan, Ron Trackman Goldman, Gary DeLeo, Erica Rich, Jeff Gorell, and Jason Suttlemore for what they've accomplished at the new Meadowlands. There are so many more kind people to thank, and the list is endless. John Holmes, Jim Whalen, Harold Howe, Wally Hennessy, Gary Seibel, and George the King Anthony, and I can't leave out Joyce Molzon, who will always be in charge of announcers. Horsemen, owners, racing fans for their generous words, my great friends on Prince Edward Island, Canada, Lee Drake and Peter McPhee, Thane Arsenal, a tremendous team there. There's no better people to work with than at Red Shores, Charlottetown. I'm not sure if this is a long shot that came in for a kid who sat in the grandstand with a tape recorder, wasn't afraid to introduce himself to people, gave it everything he had to keep getting better, and still does. Shows up every night, paid his dues, worked his way up, and eventually had a chance to call some of the greatest races at the sport's greatest track. I think I'd call that a dream come true. And at last, but certainly not least, my parents who are no longer with us for their support and work ethic, my brother Mike in Toronto, my amazing family, my wife Jennifer, my daughter Abby, son Andrew, my mother-in-law Kathy, with a C, Fitzpatrick. Family is everything. And this is my Stanley Cup. I've always said for me, racing is a great gift. And the greatest gift of all is the very next race. So we're certainly looking forward to many, many more. Thank you.
You good?
What do I do here?
Neaten up.
Do I accept or what do I do here?
That's good right here.
How's that?
Congratulations.
These single shots?
Stay, Dave.
Yeah.
Big M.
Here, let's go. Here.
Team Big M. Here we go.
Here.
Dave, right here.
All right, great. Thanks, appreciate it. Yeah. All right, guys. Great speech. Yeah, thank you.
You got two?
I squeezed you in. I got it, Jessica.
I was in the Rising Stars. I was in the old one.
Oh,
The Rising Stars.
oh, that's right. Yeah. Late comer.
Many of you who are here tonight have been here for many, many years, and the Harness Racing Museum team this year changed the format somewhat, especially in terms of the food preparation. Janet would love to get some feedback from everybody, how they enjoyed the evening, if they felt that the format was successful tonight. Personally, from what I've heard, I think a lot of people did like it, and definitely is something that the museum would like to get your feedback on. Thank you. With that being said, thank you all for coming. The results of the raffle can be found in Houghton Hall, and please stop by the gift shop on your way out. One other item, next year the Hall of Fame Day will be Sunday, July 7th, 2024. Everybody get home safely, and thank you very much.